Hi, this is Scott Delaney. This interview is one I did with Miss Jackey Tailford. It's always wonderful to hear about somebody's family history and their walk with the Lord. I hope you'll enjoy it as much as I did. And I am really excited and honored to get to spend some time with you and learn about your life and learn a little bit more about what was happening in North Toledo at the time you were growing up. So let's start there. You said you're from a big family.
Mm-hmm.
How many siblings do you have?
I got to stop it. Well, my mother was married when she was 17. Her husband was in the war, and he died at sea, so they buried him. She had one son, Albert Pontius. That was her first marriage. My father was married before, and he had a daughter named Sheila Jordan. She's a jazz singer. Very world famous now. She's 90 years old.
Wow.
She's still entertaining all over the world.
Is her name still Sheila Jordan?
Yeah. She was married to Duke Jordan, a jazz, she's a jazz artist.
Wow.
So she would come to visit in the summertime. And my dad also had a son in Canada. He was from Canada. And I came home from school one day, and there was a truck out in front with Donald M. Dawson. I thought, and that's the first time I ever met my I guess it would be a half-brother, right?
Yeah.
And so we had open door policy. Everybody that didn't have a place to stay would come and be at our house. And we always made room for everybody. So, like I say, I don't feel I had a lot of structure growing up. I feel like I was mature beyond my years, and my parents more or less just because my mom worked in a factory and my dad worked in a factory, I was alone a lot. So I was very, if I wanted something, I would go for it. And I wanted to learn to ice skate, and I stuffed the socks in my brother's 13-size shoe to learn how to ice skate. And so whatever I wanted to do, I always managed to. I would do, everybody's here in the neighborhood, Grandma Taylor. She paid me $3 work back then. And so did Dorothy Wagner. And
what would you do for $3 work? Was that a whole
I,
day or?
No. All I would do is pin curl her hair,
okay.
Back when pin curls were in. And I'd do Dorothy's hair, and I'd finger wave Grandma Taylor's hair. And I love doing that. I love making money, because gave me independence.
Yeah, if you were if you were up to doing your own thing, a little cash in your pocket would be really helpful.
Oh, yeah. And like I say, my sister-in-law said to me one time, "Didn't your mother ever teach you how to make a bed?" And I said, "I'd never slept in a bed. I slept in a rollout." And so, I didn't have to learn to make it. You just fold up the blanket and fold it up and pull it out at night.
Wow.
But my dad was, I think I was my dad's favorite because I was like his sidekick.
We'll make sure none of them hear this.
Well, the truth hurts. But I've remained friends with, of course, my brothers have all passed away. And I had Dennis and Albert and Don. And then my sisters, I had Donna. Well, for Sheila, Donna, Carol, Rosie, and Denny. Those were all the ones.
How many is that total?
I don't know. You have to count them.
3, 4. I think we'll fix this in editing.
Yeah,
10.
Yeah.
10, 11, 12?
Yeah.
I think it's 10.
But
10 of you? Is that right? Because there were 3
I
in the
thought there was
beginning, then
8.
you, and then, okay. Then there was only
8,
4
but
after.
Only Sheila came to visit. Don only came once. And
Oh, okay. So the 2, okay. So the step, half brother and half sister were included in that.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Albert joined the Navy when he was 17, and he was in the military for 30-some years till he retired.
What year did he join the military? Like, if he's 17.
When he was 17.
And when
then,
he was older than you.
Yeah, and he retired, yeah. But they all lived with us.
Okay.
And I met my husband at Stickney School, and we were changing classes, and he was a real gentleman. And one day I thought, well, I'm going to drop my pencil box in the hallway, and he'll stop and help me pick it up. Well, he stepped right over it. But
nice
anyway,
plan, though.
His mother was my Girl Scout leader, and I was a hall guard, and I was president of everything: president of Girls Chorus, president of Home Economics Club.
Oh, really?
And I was getting my identity by doing all these things and getting attention, you know. I was Sega staff salesman.
Do you feel like you were trying to get like parental approval by doing that kind of stuff? If your mom and dad were real busy, or just
I don't even think it was that. I think it was just my personality is I like people and I can talk to anybody. And,
great.
You know, so that's just, I like I say, it's such a different world today. And like I say, what I've noticed is every time I say something, they give me an argument. Well,
they don't.
Where'd you hear that? Well, you can't trust that. Well, you can't believe this. Blah, 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 blah. But what they say is the gospel. You know what I mean? And so I'm trying to figure all this out because I'm reading a book. I just was going through my books on how to get along with everybody. And that's interesting. How do you get along with everybody when everybody's so... And it's not just my family. I mean, I find it, as I've gotten older with the elderly and haven't invited people to come and stay with me in Florida, how, it's really funny. I had a lady come and stay with me year before last she came for 2 weeks and stayed for like 3 months. And we got along great. And I paid for everything. Well, then she wanted to come and stay with me last year, and so she was afraid somebody else was going to stay with me that inherited some money. So she put a check for half of my rent for this last year under my door. Well, I didn't ask her. She just wanted to do it. And we got along. The first year we got along really well. And then the second year she got in a fight with her boyfriend and got in a fight with his daughter because, the mixed generation, they don't want their dad or mom to get married because they're going to lose the house or lose the money.
Oh, sure.
You know. So you're dealing with more when you get older than you are when you're younger because...
But you're still taking people in like your parents did.
Yeah.
So obviously it was a
But I'm
good
learning
experience.
boundaries.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
So, because I was codependent, not because I chose to be, but because at 19 my mom died and left 3 little kids, 4, 5, and 7. And my husband and I talked about it. He was very mature. And we didn't want my siblings to go in to break them up, And my mother's sisters never had children. And so they always wanted, well, maybe I'll take one, So all my sisters and family loved my husband probably more than me because he was so patient. Like he would get up and run with my brother. And Denny had sort of a weight problem. He was spoiled because after my mom died at 46, my dad let him sleep with him. And so when my dad remarried 17 years later, my brother was very jealous of his wife. It just, these are just real life experiences that you have. And so you learn from them.
Now so you met your husband.
I was in the 7th grade and he was in the 8th grade.
And the failed pencil box attempt.
Yeah, that didn't work. Well, then he started going across the street with Grandma Taylor and Dorothy Wagner that I used to do their hair. He started hanging around with Tommy and Ronnie Wagner, and then the boy next door, Bill Politis. And so we would see each other all the time. But I really didn't date that much. I got homecoming queen my sophomore year, and I didn't have a date because I thought most guys were jerks. And the guys would follow me around. They go, Allah, Allah, make way for the queen. And I just ignored them because I didn't know how to handle it. You know what I mean? But I mean, I think I kept a sense of humor through all of it. And I remained friends with all of them.
And dealing with any 14 to 17-year-old male, and maybe even a little beyond that, you have to just purely approach them with a sense of humor.
You better believe it.
Yeah.
But anyway, then one time Bill came over and we were sitting in the living room and he said, "What would you do if I kissed you?" I said, "Well, try it and find out." That was kind of a feisty little thing. And I think that we just had a very special relationship. And I can't even imagine, maybe it's selfishness on my part, but I have no desire to dance with anybody or go out with anybody. I mean, I just want to keep it on a friend basis. I mean, I think I had one love in my life other than Jesus, and that's enough for me.
Yeah. So what were some of the qualities that you saw in Bill, even at an early age? That
integrity and honesty, and if somebody swore in front of me, he'd, "Excuse me, this is my girlfriend. I'd appreciate it if you didn't talk that way in front of her." He always opened the door for me, and I kept all the little, from our proms, he would write me little, in the prom book, he would write little love notes in there, and I kept them all. Wow. I think, I don't know who's got them, but I know somebody's got them, but he's just always supported me. Even when my mom was dying and I would stay at the hospital, we'd sleep in a chair, and he'd sleep, right next to me and stay there all night long, and then he'd get up, go to work the next day. How many guys would do that? So
were his parents pretty close with him? And
yes, he was very close with his parents, and I loved his mom and dad. I took care of his dad for 10 years after my husband died. And he would call me in Florida and talk to me. And my mother-in-law used to come down from Dearborn, and she'd say, "Well, I just wanted an adult to talk to." And that made me feel so good, because he said, "You were probably closer to my parents than my own siblings." So I think because I lost my parents early, I was a little bit more...
you value those relationships.
Definitely. Yeah.
So how old were you when you got married?
19.
Wow.
And we got married January 29th. And it was really funny. We got married in between his semesters at college. And he worked at, he was working at the Chevrolet transmission plant. That's a factory with my dad. My dad was very cut and dry. And Bill wasn't out on time. He was an electrician's helper. And if he was up on the ceiling at closing time, if Bill didn't get down, my dad would leave him there. Bill would be running down Central Avenue. Don, wait for me. But my dad really loved Bill. We had a good relationship. So we had some really interesting. And when my mom died, my dad went out and bought me a faux fur coat, long. Faux fur coat. And here's the thing. And so when I came home with it, my husband said, "No, your dad's not paying for that. I'm your husband. I'm paying for the coat." So he paid my dad back for the coat. So those were the things that stuck out in my mind, that he would always... I said he filled my wallet, he filled my heart. He just was an unbelievable, and he was very, like I say, he was very close to his mom and dad, and they respected him. I mean, he was he was just a very unusual person. And my mother and father-in-law, they were very good to me. Very good to me. When my mom died on Thanksgiving Day, my grandmother died on Christmas. So you see the depth of the loss more. And, well, it's just that every holiday you think about Thanksgiving and how it was. My mother and father-in-law had me and my brothers and sisters 4, 5, and 7 over. They didn't have a lot of money. My father-in-law was a Greyhound bus driver. But, you know.
So usually 19, and so Bill would have been 20?
20, yeah. Because his birthday's January 8th and mine's December 12th, so that's about a year different.
Yeah, right about.
Yeah.
Did you always stay in Toledo?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. At one point, Bill was working 2 jobs and his health went bad. And they said, well, you should go to Arizona or someplace for your health. But he didn't. But it was just that he worked at the factory, and then he got a job at the Blade, doing artwork for the Toledo Blade. And he got the job, and they waited 2 weeks for him because he wanted to give them notice. And he had a lung collapse. He ran up the stairs for lunch, and when he got up the top of the stairs, he couldn't breathe. And so they had to put him in the hospital, and they had to put needles in his chest to make his lungs inflate. And then he couldn't work or drive a car or anything for 6 months.
Wow.
So he would take a bus and freelance. But both of us had the drive to, he would go and sell, on a bus. He'd take a bus to get to wherever he wanted to go call on people. And
did you work at that time too, or when did?
No, I had my brothers and sisters, so I got $15 a week for taking care of So my dad made out like a banshee because he collected over $350,000 all those years for the minor children of Zarita Dawson because she died working in a factory. And 2 or 3 days after she expired, they sent her a watch for 28 years of service.
Wow. So she died. You said she died working in the factory. Was she actually in the factory?
No.
Oh, okay.
She had
while under their employ.
She had pneumonia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we just had a little window air conditioner, and she couldn't breathe, so she would stay close to the air conditioner, and then she got pneumonia and died. So, but I mean, I had people, even back then, neighbors would send me little love notes and say how much they appreciated my integrity for raising my brothers and sisters, And I still have a close relationship with them now. As a matter of fact, I'm going to order my sister, she's 88, Donna, and have lunch with her today. She's got full-time help around the clock. But I don't know, it sounds crazy, but I was really happy because I just knew Bill was always in my corner, and we were always, like he wrote a letter. Did you ever read the letter that Grandpa wrote?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And he really appreciated that I was always there with him and for him. And I talked him into coming home from Ebed. I didn't want him to die there. I told him, I said, come home and sleep in your own bed, be with me. And he did. When he walked out of Ebed, he had his crutches and he had his little bag with his, and he said, I bet you don't see this very often. and Jake stayed with him all the time. He was a big help. Jake really was great. All my grandkids are great. I mean, Tammy always says, "Oh, it's just you're spoiling your grandkids again." Oh yeah, and then he wrote this thoughts and prayers for healing.
Oh, okay.
And it's our life story about how we were But
Isn't that funny? Every person that we've had a conversation with so far has had a book.
I know I just took 5 of them at Penny's, and all the people at Penny's think, and a lot of people think, it's funny how they have preconceived ideas. They think I'm a minister's wife. I said, we're all ministers. We're supposed to be.
Yeah, that's right.
But
What makes you say that? I'm curious about that.
what
We're all ministers.
Well, because I think people are always watching us, and they don't watch what you say; they watch what you do. Your actions. Actions speak louder than words.
So when you were young, and you two things are funny to me. You don't always think of someone who runs an ad agency as being steeped in integrity and chivalry.
Well,
right?
did Gary tell you that Bill hired him? They were going to start a third force, another Jesus in your business. Did Gary tell you that?
He mentioned it in passing.
Yeah.
Briefly, yeah.
Yeah, and then Dolores and I used to walk every day at Olander and pray together. And, of course, your grandma was in Bible study with her for how many years? And I remember one time, I sang in the choir, and I used to go to church real early in the morning, and I'd play. I'd get up and go to church by myself. And I would play.
And what age was that? How old were you when you would go to church?
I was probably in the 2nd, 3rd grade. And I would go, and I would talk to Elizabeth O'Hara. She was our organist. And it wasn't until I was older, one day I started laughing. I thought, I used to go and talk to her before church would start in Sunday school. She didn't even listen to me. But I didn't know that. She'd sit there and pound the organ, and I'd tell her everything I was, what a needy little kid I was. But I didn't know I was needy. I just knew I wanted to talk to somebody.
I got to sit here and play with this little girl chatting away.
Like I was telling Tammy about how close I got to Jake when he ran that marathon. And I said, those were such precious moments. I'll never forget that. I said, it was just, he just was so special to me. And those are the things you can't put a price on.
Yeah. No, those conversations, those shared moments, absolutely. What made you want to go to church as a child? Was your family church going as well? Or?
In the living room where I slept, there was a Hook's picture of Jesus praying in the Garden of Gethsemane. And so every morning I woke up, I saw that picture. And so I just think that I knew that there was more and that there was something greater than myself and my family and everything. And it's really funny because I did the same thing with Matthew. I had a picture of Jesus with a light on it, and I put it in his, we told him, you're the only kid in the world that has a washer and dryer, your own washer and dryer, because it was an old kitchen, and they put the washer and dryer in there, so we converted it into a bedroom. It was bunk beds. I had that picture in there, and I think that's why Matt's so spiritual. I really do think that, even though he thinks I babied him too much, but my brother-in-law said, go by Aunt Jackie, she'll love you up, because his wife is kind of cold. And all the grandkids, like last night, I sat with Cooper and Emma and Boston, William, and he sat there and he was hugging me. I wouldn't give anything, for that. I mean, I'm worth millions, really, when you think about what my inheritance that we're going to leave, so...
But the moments with the loved ones and connecting and snuggling and talking and all that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, you don't really hear a lot of feedback when people have lived, 6, 7, 8 decades.
Yeah.
I don't hear a lot of people saying, well, I wish I had just made a little more money, or I wish I had done
money was never... we had offers. My sister's husband offered us to buy her house in Ottawa Hills for $50,000. And that's not where our head was at. We wanted to we had put it in the ground swimming pool so we could have all the baptisms and I've had people come, Bob Forney from a toxicologist, that solved that murder of that guy that injected his wife with something you give horses and killed. Well, he had baptisms in our pool, Dr. Forney. And so I just think that
we'll get him next. That sounds interesting.
Wow. Our whole focus was to bring everybody together. And everybody lived with little Louis Tailford lived with his wife, kicked him out because he was an alcoholic. He come crawling in my front window one night and I went, "What is this?" And he lived with us for 6 weeks till he got his act together. But wow. I don't know. I'm rattling.
What made you and well, yeah, okay. We'll rewind a little bit and then we'll go back to that because I'm really curious about that kind of community approach. But so you got married. Bill gets a job. You're still raising your siblings.
Yep.
When did you guys transition into both raising your own family and then transition into the...
When my oldest daughter, Kim, was 5, we moved out to Elvin Street by the university. And then my aunt came, and of course Rosie moved in with me. My sister Rose moved in with me, and Carol lived with me, and she got pregnant. And
so you're still raising people.
So I told her, I said, I never gave her any advice other than the fact I said, here's your situation. You can go to school and I'll raise your daughter while you're in school. I said, or, you can marry the young man and move, with him. And so she did. She ran away and she married him, and they were married about 2 years. While I was working at LaSalle's doing demonstrations, and she came to see me and said that he was abusive and that he wasn't treating their daughter right. So she said, "Can I come home?" And I said, "Yeah, you can come home." So she came home. Well, then I had Matt Caesarian, my brother's little boy, drowned in the swimming pool. I could write a book about all the stories, really. But like I say, Matt and Bill and I was always like this. We talked everything over. We were always in agreement. And if he said to me, "I want to buy an organ for the church up in Everett, Negaunee Lake," and I said, "Honey," he said, "how do you feel about that?" And I said, "If you feel that's what God's calling you to do, then I want you to do that." I said, we have everything we need. We're and so then we opened the mustard seed. Do you remember the mustard seed? We bought a building and we went in partnership. Everybody that was ever in partnership with, we ended up buying out because Bill, if he said he was going to do something, he'd stay up all night to do it. He never didn't do what he said he was going to do. And so I talked to Ann Nassitz. And I said, we were at Bible study, and she said they wanted to open the mustard seed. And I said, well, let me talk to my husband. I said, we got to...
Was it a Christian education place?
No, it was right next. It was 1815 Sylvania Avenue, and it was a spare house. And so we raised $25,000 a year for kids to go to camp free. And then what we do is all the girls in the Bible study would bring our stuff, and then on the 30th day, you get $1 a bag. So you got a grocery bag for $1, and you could take whatever you wanted. And we had a thing fixed in Bill's office that if anybody came in and tried to cause any problems, they could call Grandpa and say, your ties are in, and that was a clue for him to come over, that some guy went in the bathroom, and it wasn't supposed to be used for a bathroom. It was just, we had stuff stored in there to buy, And Bill came over and he's, what? I don't have any ties. And we said, there's some guy in the bathroom and he won't come out. We don't know what he's doing in there. So Bill finally knocked on the door and got him out. But anyway.
So it was a grocery and resale shop?
No, it was all clothes.
All clothing. Okay.
All clothes, yep.
It's a grocery bag, so they would fill the grocery bag
Fill the
with
grocery
the clothes.
bags with the clothes, yeah.
And when was that?
Oh, my golly. Do you know Tim Strand and Scott Johnson? Okay, well, Tim Strand and Scott Johnson are football players from TU. And he used to do Amen. And, oh, my God, when he would sing Amen, And Tim Strand, you never heard of Tim Strand? No. Oh, I'm surprised Gary Burke and your grandmother didn't mention them, because they were very key in getting young. And then Jim Gregory died. He drowned. You remember a bunch of kids?
It's possible it may have been before. Is that the fellow who died in the creek? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and Jim Gregory drowned in the creek. And it's really funny because the people next door used to hate it that I always had Young Life people there. I used to have 300 people a night on Monday night. We'd open the door and let them all sing and everything. Well, it's really funny because this one night I came home and Jim Gregory had a big black fro and he had my hot pink robe on, and he came out and I thought, oh my God, I'm really in trouble with the neighbors now. And the people next door, they were not cotton to me at all. Then their boy robbed. He was stealing drugs, and he robbed a place over on Sylvania Avenue. It's a doctor's office. He broke in the silent alarm tripped, and they told him, well, if you do this heist, we won't make you do it again. Well, the police shot him in the back and killed him. Well, the people next door, all of a sudden they had the funeral and all the cars were, and it took that for them to realize that the grass wasn't that damn important. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we had some horrendous stories, but for 3 days I cooked food, and everybody that would go and drag for the bodies came to our house. We had 24-hour. I made homemade vegetable soup. I made chicken.
So they had to search for.
They were dragging for the other guy.
Do you remember the story pretty well of how it all happened? That tragedy.
I think they were doing a canoe trip, and they were trying to see how far they could canoe. And the canoe tipped over, and they got caught in the undertow.
Yeah, and it was just. It was in the Ottawa River, or was it?
No, it was right
just
there.
Just a 10-mile creek.
10-mile creek.
Wow.
And Gary knows all about that. But we were involved in Young Life, hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, and that must have been the 70s,
see,
late 70s.
Bill and I started it.
Yeah.
Bill and I, your mom and dad, Gary and Dolores. Gary and Dolores lived with Bill and I for about 6 or 8 weeks until they found a place to live when they came back from Colorado. So that's how Dolores and I got close. And then Rachel Leonard, do you remember Rachel?
No. Okay,
well, Rachel Leonard and her husband was the principal of Sherman School. And she had brain surgery, and we all stayed at our house and prayed all day, and they did the surgery and they got her. But I can get so overcome with compassion that I can pass out or have a seizure. So what I do now is I don't put myself in that position since I'm older. Like both of my kids' sisters just had open heart surgery. And I went up there before, but once I knew they were having the surgery, I didn't go up because I didn't want to have a seizure and end up. I took my husband to the hospital and they said he had I forget what you call it, but anyway, whatever it was, I ended up passing out and they admitted me. So Bethy said, or Kim said, "Come down here. I got both of them in emergency." So it's interesting. I don't know.
Did so let's go back again. How many children do you have?
I have 3.
3 kids.
I had 2 miscarriages in between Matt and Tammy. But I wasn't that far along, but God knew what I could handle, you know.
And are they all in town?
Yeah. Kim, his mother, Kim and Coop. And so far, we've been blessed with all of them.
And how many grandkids is that now?
Oh, my God. Let's see, Kim's got 3, she's got 3. Josh has 1 and 1 on the way, and she's lost 2. And then Sarah's got 2. Bethy has 3, and she lost 3. Matt's got 2, and they lost 3. But Matt said when he was making the movie, Satan was attacking all the people. He does Christian films. Have you seen any of his movies?
I'm not familiar. I don't know the full body of work, but I think I probably
I was going to
have.
say, I've got some of his movies, and I bought some for different churches and donated them. It's surprising the churches don't even... I called WLMB because Matt and I went to religious broadcasting things with my husband with J.B. Smites. And I called my church, and I wanted him to give a plug for his movie, God Bless the Broken Road. And they said, well, they wouldn't do it. I said, well, he was a professor at a Christian college. He's got all these master's degrees. He got baptized in this church, and you won't put... I don't understand Christians.
That's
I think
pretty
that's
common sentiment, I think.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to sound bitter or anything like that. I'm just saying.
Well, it's sometimes the structure of the organization gets in the way of doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The legalism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
the kids grew up, and did they all go to Toledo schools, or did they eventually come to Sylvania schools, or?
Well, Matt. Yeah, the kids all went to. Well, they went to. Kim went to.
And this would have been your 3rd round of parenting, basically.
Yeah.
For your kids.
Yeah. So I asked Tammy, I said, Tammy, was I controlling or bossing? She said, no. It was like she said to me one time, she came home and she went to some bar on Central Avenue. And she said, why didn't you say something? I said, because you don't drink and you don't like it. So I figured you weren't going to, why would I say anything? I mean, you're like me. I don't drink. I don't like it. I've never had a beer in my life, and I haven't missed a thing.
You want a beer?
No, well, thank
okay.
you.
We don't have anything anyways.
But
Just thought we might have some breaking news on the podcast here, first ever.
Yeah, I know that's what Jim Cummerell, or one of them said, I'll get you to drink a beer for your 80th birthday. I said, no.
Oh, well, how was it different with your children compared to it's interesting that you've had a mother hen kind of role for other people, but what did you feel differently with your own?
I think that what I tried to create, like when I took care of these our clients' kids, and he adopted 5 kids. Now Alex Monteith, he owns all the ranch steak and seafoods years ago, and he had 13 Ponderosas and 13 Pizza Inns. We did all the advertising for him, so I took care of his kids all summer long.
There's a lot of beef blood on his hands.
Huh? Yeah. So I would play Christian music and let him swim laps in the pool. I always tried to create an atmosphere of fun. Mm-hmm. That like when they would come home, when Robbie has a cleft palate and a hair lip, and nobody wanted him because of his disfigurement, and Alex adopted him and the twins, and so when they would. When they'd come home from school or something, I would have hot chocolate, and I'd put a fire in the fireplace, and just did little, fun things, bake cookies and let them ice them, bake cupcakes, let them ice them. And I just went to this young man's wedding. It was a couple weeks ago. I was going to ask you to go with me because I didn't really want to go alone, but I thought, nope, God's with me. I'm going to go. So I went. Tammy drove me down and dropped me off. And I went, and all these kids that I took care of, it was really funny. I thought Alex walked me right up to the front with the family.
Oh.
And all of a sudden, this girl turned around. She gave me a hug and a kiss, and one next to me. And oh my God, it was the twins, and Robbie and Melissa and Melanie. And that was worth everything. That all those years and all those summers that I took care of, they didn't forget me.
That's something that doesn't come back void when you love other people.
Yeah,
and you
I
invest
know.
time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but yet I think sometimes you got to die for them to really appreciate what you did. You know what I'm saying? I think that until they go through a few things, like Matt will always say, "Oh, you're my mother." I'll say, "I'm so proud of you. You're so handsome. Cut it out. Don't do that." But
so what was a time when you were? I'm curious about a couple of things. Okay. First of all, I'm interested in birth stories, and you said you had 2 miscarriages.
Yeah, I wasn't that far along.
Not far along.
Yeah.
But when you were giving birth to your kiddos, were you in a hospital? Were you at the house?
Yeah. When I had Kim, it was very emotional because I labored so long, and it took me 3 days, and they kept saying to Bill, "Isn't she delivered yet? Is she still in there? She hasn't delivered yet?"
Oh, you were in the hospital 3 days.
Yeah, and
wow.
And Bill came in to see me, and I cried because my mom. I had her on the 23rd, and my mom died the 24th the year before. So Bill sent me 2 dozen of red roses, and and I still got the card, "To my beautiful wife for giving me a beautiful daughter." And, I said to the girl in the next bed, because I didn't have a private room, you didn't have a private room back then. And I said,
especially if you're staying there for half a week.
I said to the lady in the next bed, "This fine gold thread that God weaves." I said, "Oh, look at my rich brother-in-law sent me 2 dozen of red roses." And I opened the card, and it was from my husband. And we couldn't afford that any more than the man in the moon, And so anyway, come to find out, where my daughter Kim is living now, the gal that was in the next bed when I delivered Kim lives exactly behind Kim.
Really?
Yeah, isn't that something?
Wow.
That's really incredible. And then
you can move around a lot of different places and end up connected to the same people you're supposed to.
Yeah, and then in my Bible study class, the gal that was in my Bible study class, Rosie Oleanek, was Bethy's nurse, and she brought her in, and I was in delivering. What was it? I was going to have the hysterectomy. That's what because I was saying it wasn't going to deliver. And so I went in with Kim to deliver. The doctor came in. They looked at me. I said, "No, it's not me. It's her." But anyway, it's interesting to see how your lives intertwine with people that you never even, expect.
Do you still have some of those relationships with the young people that you spent time with when you were younger? Did they still come to family events or family Christmases or holidays and other things like that?
Some of them do. I think we're always getting new ones because they move away.
Yeah.
But like I think about Karen Ross, and she was a Young Life person, but she was from Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh. She was from Pittsburgh. But I like Tim Strand and Scott Johnson, all the football players, and Pivaronis. All those guys came to Bill's funeral. And I thought that was really neat, But, you think, gee, he was such a good man. He did so many good things, but he touched a lot of lives.
So take me through not thinking you could afford the roses that were at the bedside when you were birthing Kim to selling or retiring from the business,
Well,
So how did that...
we never really retired. What it was really funny is, I think Bill hired one of his cousins to come in the business, and his name was Jackey Tailford, and he was from, I think he was in Toledo, and he went to Bowling Green. Anyway, Bill hired him to give him a job, but...
And just for everyone who may be listening, you want to outline what the work is?
Pardon?
What the job was, the company?
Advertising.
Mm-hmm.
And
what was it called, and when did it start?
It was Tailford Associates. We went back to Tailford Associates.
Okay.
And, that was one of the reasons why Coop changed the name of the company, because he didn't want two Tailfords. It would be Tailford Cooper Smith. And then when he hired his cousin, he called on one of Cooper's clients, Toledo Hospital. And, that was too confusing. They said, well, which Tailford are you with? Well, they were both my husbands, But we borrowed $1,000 from his parents, paid 8% interest on it, paid it all back. He always was very... And
when was that? When did you borrow $1,000?
That's when we started the business.
Was that in the 70s? Or?
Oh, my golly, it's been in business for over 60 years.
Okay.
So I think he was about 23 maybe when he started it. And he would go out and sell during the day and do artwork at night. And then we gradually bought the building on Sylvania Avenue and the house, and we bought out Herb Weingarten that did Light Alert. Are you familiar with Light Alert? It's a thing for old people to wear around their neck that you can get help immediately.
Oh, I'm falling and I can't get up?
Yeah. And his daughter is Jewish, come to know the Lord at our house, and just got back and wrote me a beautiful thank you note for going to Israel. And her daughter, who she had a baby she was never married, she had a baby, and the little girl's a minister. So her family's all Jewish, and she's the only one that, but we hung around with all these Jewish people, and they would say, they would fight and argue, and Bill say, you just accused me of cheating and you want to go out for dinner. I don't understand you. So we've had some interesting relationships, to say the least. I'm probably missing out a lot of things, but
that's okay. My job's to try to bring it back to the things that I think we should get to. But I think that the business stories are kind of an interesting next chapter. I think that I know Jake has told me that you all spent some time out on the East Coast doing work out there.
Oh, yeah. We had an office in California, and Bill said to me, how would you like to move to California? I said, no way. I said, we part ways if you want to go out there, buddy. I'm not interested. There's nothing out there for me. But he loved to eat out. He loved to experience different cuisines. We took classes at the university and learned how to cook Chinese food. One night we were making Chinese food. We invited all the kids over. We didn't eat till 11 o'clock at night because all was chopping. But he had a sense of humor. He was very funny.
Yeah.
But he was a great guy. That's all I can say. But I love my brother, his family too. I mean, we just went up there and celebrated his, and it's really funny because this kid that's dying with Lou Gehrig's disease, Daniel, and his mother and I was pregnant at the same time. She had Daniel, I had Matthew, and Debbie had and his sister had Debbie. That's right. We were all pregnant at the same time, and Daniel used to always call Matt Fat Matt. And I let him come and stay with us when he was a freshman in high school. He was very, very thin. They never fed him any food for a year. I guess back then that was supposed to be healthy or something. And I had him put swimmies on to teach him how to swim when he was a freshman in high school. And we went grocery shopping. He said, "Wow, do you buy all this food?" I said, "Yeah, because everybody comes here to eat." It's really different to go from the extreme to where I'm at now, But it's harder to find people to hang around with when you're 83 years old. It's really.
Do you still have a pool?
At where I live, yeah.
You just open it up again and
yeah.
get 'em.
Well, now I got the dog, and I love that dog. He is so precious. But.
So, did you have a position in the company too at the ad agency? What was your role in taking it from $1,000?
Well, mainly, at first I started out. We had a filmotype machine, and I'd set type, and I learned all the different fonts.
Oh yeah.
And I would just set that in the basement, and then we started going to Great Lakes Engraving, and we gradually moved on, to different things. Nobody can understand what you go through when you're building a business. It makes a lot of sacrifices, you know. And I'm glad to see the younger people get the advantage of, whatever we've built. We give all the glory to God. And that's what Gary and Bill was going to do, the third force. I'm surprised he didn't go into that with you.
He didn't. He touched on it briefly.
He might have forgotten. As you get older, you forget things.
He's got a lot of elements in his story. It seemed like he remembered darn near all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went on some sailing trips with Gary and Dolores with unbelievers, and I think it really, really changed my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, because we were on this island in the Virgin Islands, and Bill paid all their expenses to go with us. And he told me last week when we went up to Daniel's daughter's graduation party, he said, Sis and I would never have been able to do the things we did with you and Bill, because you guys were always so gracious. But give God the glory. It's not us. It's, that's what we're supposed to do. And then when Glenn was a house parent for delinquent boys, we would take all the delinquents out sailing, and then Bill bought season tickets to the symphony, and we would expose these delinquents to the symphony that they probably never. One of them was a murderer. We didn't know. I mean, now I guess he's in prison ministering to people, in prison. So, it's interesting to see how your life unravels. I think this is a great thing that you guys are doing. I'm excited about it. I hope it helps a lot of people.
It's been helpful to us so far. It's great.
Yeah, well, that's great.
Yeah. Thank you.
But like I say, I enjoyed all of them. And I remember one time I had all these steaks and sweet corn and everything, and I was having all the delinquents over for a cookout and a swim day. Well, I think it was it Susie? One of your mom's friends came over to the house, and she said somebody stole her wallet. Well, your dad wouldn't bring them over. And he said, well, if somebody took it, put it back, or we're not going to Tailford's. And I felt so bad. I thought, I worked so hard, and I wanted to have all of them have a good time. And then I guess when they went home, they found the wallet. And the kids all swore they didn't take it. So those are some of the stories,
Yeah, that's it's a pretty interesting perspective to want to open up your house to the delinquent youth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Hey, I've spent
ministry.
anniversaries coming down with, what the heck was that guy's name? As a matter of fact, his father was a manager for one of the ranch steak and seafoods, and the name was very unusual. Something, and I said, do you have a nephew named so-and-so? And he said, yeah, why do you ask? And I said, well, because I spent my anniversary with him coming down off of drugs, and but we didn't
It's
want.
probably better you don't remember the name then.
No, I did remember, but like that fine gold thread, like I say, you just meet all these people, and then all of a sudden they come back in your lives after all those years. And I went to our senior group at church, and Denny Belkoffer. That's Rachel Belkoffer. I was in Bible study with her for years. The one I told you, her husband was the principal of Sherman School. This guy came in, and he sang, and I thought, I know that guy. I know him. Afterwards, he came over, and he said, are you Jackey Tailford? And I said, yeah, why? He said, I'm Denny Belkoffer. I said, oh, my God, we prayed for him for so long. He was gay, and he tried to go straight, and I think he might be straight now. I don't know, but anyway, he was singing at church, and
Well, what was he wearing?
yeah. Now it's really, I don't know. It's very upsetting.
57. Yeah, we'll edit that out.
What?
I'm just looking at the time.
Oh.
We'll edit that
What
out.
time is it?
We don't want to alienate the LGBTQs, the community.
Yeah. So
We
what? Yeah.
deplatformed.
Yeah.
Welcome back. We have
Yeah.
just almost been deplatformed.
We might get famous.
Yeah. Oh, we've had some very interesting
It's only 11:30, by the way.
employees.
Yeah, let's take a break for a second. We can edit that out.
Okay. Is it too much for you?
No, I think it's actually a good idea to take an intermission during our podcast because it gives everybody a sense to refresh.
Yeah.
It's an hour.
Because otherwise you start feeling like you're being pushed forward and you have to get it out, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that how's this spot? Do you need to be able to lean up on the table a little bit? Would that be helpful?
Yeah, that's okay. I didn't think that it would go that easily.
Oh, good. Yeah. We can maybe touch more. I like that you said fine gold thread a couple of times. I'd like to hear more about how you define that, or the ways that you've seen it. Because that's obviously
Well, how God, here's a perfect
Well, if you're
example.
gonna start doing it.
Okay.
There.
Well, he wanted to take he wanted to take a break. He
Cool.
wanted to take a break,
I
but
know, but now we're still. Well, break's over.
yeah.
You can go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I was going to say, when I lived with Kim and Coop for 4 months after my husband died, because I really didn't care about material things. I didn't care about. I had a beautiful home up at Lake Columbia, 3,500 square feet, 3 stories. 6 months after we bought it, it flooded and totally destroyed the whole inside.
Wow.
So Bill redesigned it, and they ended up appraising it for around $700,000. Well, I didn't want to live there by myself. I didn't want to be, up in Michigan. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
Lake Columbia. So and when all the kids would come up there, they all want to come up and party and have a good time, but nobody wants to take the responsibility. You know what I'm saying? So then
Yeah.
I ended up. We talked about it, and I wanted to give a third, and a third to the 3 kids. Well, Tammy didn't want the responsibility. Kim didn't want the responsibility. They liked to go and rent a place and leave the mess for somebody else. So anyway, then Matt had lost the 3 babies, and the girls decided, well, if he wants it, he can move in and work for Coop. So he did, and so anyway, I the Brondies, we were in committee with them for Young Life for years. Well, his wife has a place up at Lake Columbia, and so anyway, then when I moved, I lived with Kim and Coop for 4 months, and they decided Noelle and Stephen showed me my place where I'm at now, and I think it was of the Lord, because I went and I looked at it, and I was waiting for everybody's going to have a baby, and they were all waiting for what they were going to have. So I said, well, I called Stephen. I said, Stephen, ask her if she'll wait a few minutes, and then I'll come and see the place. Well, I went to see the place, and there was a big frog outside. I was in a Bible study called Forever Rely on God. So when I saw that big frog out there, that was a sign for me. So then the lady up there on the third floor said, are you Jackey Tailford? And I said, yes. She said, well, my son worked for your husband. I said, who's your son? I said, oh, yeah, I know your son. Then the lady next door said, my brother or somebody worked for Bill. I said, oh, yeah, I know him. So it was like God put me with all these Christian women that my husband had done business with. So that's what I mean about the fine gold thread. I felt like I was home because I felt safe, I felt protected, and the deer and the birds. And Matt said, Mom, I lived here all my life, and I didn't know how beautiful it is back here, quiet and peaceful, you know. So I thought that was exciting. But, you know, when I see all these kids, then I went to the 50th anniversary of Young Life at Start High School, and I wasn't going to go, and the kids talked me into going, I'm over the hill, you know, it's all the young people now and everything. I went. I got so many kisses, so many hugs, so many memories came back of all the kids that, you know, grew up at my house, you know. So it was really, and we used to have a sign because sometimes it would cause confusion with Kim and Tam. They didn't know if the Young Life kids were their friends or my friends, you know, because, you know, sometimes they come to see me and then, you know, so that was kind of hard for the kids. But basically I think that, I always tell the kids, well, spend time with your husband. You know, you guys go out for dinner yourself. And they'll say, no, Mom, we want you to go. If you always say no, we'll never get to be with you. So I'm finding a balance in being a widow and being a previous business owner. I love business. I mean, I keep thinking about what could I do to be, you know, creative and do something that I could make money and help other widows, because I do that in Florida.
We'll arrange something right now.
You know,
Finder's fee for
there's
people.
So many people down there that are other women that are hurting, and they say to me, I like this one Jewish woman. I really like her, and I'm trying to develop a relationship with her. And we were sitting by the pool, and she started to cry. And, you know, I was asking her some questions, and she said, my kids got so many problems, they don't have time for me. And I oh, bless your heart. So I told her, I said, well, why don't we walk our dogs together sometime, because she's got a dog. So I'm finding new ways to, you know, to they have a hymn sing on Friday nights.
Your ministry isn't stopping.
No.
No.
The hymn sings on Friday nights, and you can give your testimony. And then they have crafts, and they sell the stuff, and they give money to needy people and walkers and stuff like that. And I tried to work in the thrift shop there. It's all volunteer, but they got too many workers. But that's okay. You know, I still...
It's a great problem to have.
Yeah, that's right. And it's fun. Like I'm talking to a lady upstairs for me. I invited her to come down this winter, and she takes care of a 103-year-old lady. And she said, she's so much fun. She said, you know, I want to. My daughter and I are going to come and pick you up, and we're going to go out to the gambling casino. She won $700. And so she's all excited about that. So, I don't know.
Somebody's winning.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Well,
so any other questions that you think that you want me to cover?
A couple of fun ones.
Okay.
Can you remember or recall a time where you laughed so hard that you were kind of like near being brought to tears, or just a particularly memorable time?
Yeah, this might be kind of gross, but I'll tell you.
That's usually makes it better.
Yeah, well, we were out, everybody was out in the breakfast room at my house, and I thought, I had gas, and I thought, I don't want anybody to know. So I went in the living room, and I expelled gas, and all of a sudden, Bill comes crawling on his hands and knees. I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm trying to get under it. And he always got. And another time when we got back from Israel, we went to the Olive Garden. A bunch of my sisters, we all went to the Olive Garden, and I was sharing my pictures and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, Bill come running in, and he had a big picture of me on the donkey. Is that with humps?
Camel,
yeah. Mm-hmm. And I said, why do you always get me? Either I'm bending over or I got the look of fear on my face, because when the camel goes down, you can go right over the head. You don't have any control over it, you know. But he would always get funny pictures. You always make me the blunt of your jokes. But we and then when we took this, Matt wanted to raise money for inner city schools, so we took this trip across country. He rode his bicycle from Sylvania to Seattle. And Bill put all the maps together, and the maps didn't jive. Well, the first day, Matt had to ride 175 miles on the bike. And so when we finally caught up with him, Matt's arm shot up in the air. He was hungry. He was tired. And we would stop and we didn't want him to do it alone, because we've heard, you know, some stories where people disappear and stuff like that. So in a way, we were sneaky overprotective, sort of.
Yeah, you're pretending like you're supporting him, cheerleading, but you're also keeping an eye.
But he did raise money for $5,000 for inner city school. But him and his buddy, Todd Davis, he is, I think he's in Thailand teaching English. And interesting kid. We've met some really interesting people, you know.
It certainly sounds like it.
Yeah. And then where were we? We were someplace, and I think we were in Switzerland. And we got in this thing, this train, like it was a bus to take you on a tour. And we introduced ourselves, and here we had been with her nephew the night before. How strange is that, you know? So, I don't know.
What's your favorite place that you've ever traveled to?
I love Hawaii, but I love Switzerland too. And I didn't particularly care for Germany. We were in 9 countries. But we went with Bill's mom and dad. And you know, we used to always take his great-grandfather, who came from England. We used to take him up to see the Tigers play once a year. And I always liked the 7th inning stretch, because I always got a hot dog. But, you know, I don't think we had a boring life at all.
Oh, it doesn't sound like it at all. I think we're just scratching the surface right now.
Yeah.
So where did you go in Switzerland? Do you remember?
We went on the Autobahn. We rented a car, and I'm not that historic. I'm ashamed to say that I'm not as historical as I should have been.
Well, what struck you about the landscape or the people there? Oh, it's just
so beautiful, awesome, beautiful. But we were in. I think I was in Hawaii 2 or 3 times, and I loved it. But I'd like to go back to Jerusalem again, the Holy Land. I encouraged Kim and Coop were going to go with the Nappies, but then I guess Courtney was going to have her baby, and she has a cesarean, so they will go though. And I imagine your grandmother went, didn't she?
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, I just thought it was so, and I really enjoyed that. But Bill wanted to go for 3 weeks, and because of his health, I didn't want to be out of the country that long. So I said, well, honey, let's just go for 2 weeks. And that way, because he would have seizures, and I was afraid you get your medication screwed up because of the time changes and everything. It's very confusing.
Yeah.
But we met a nice couple from Texas. They were both from broken homes. And so we spent a lot of time with them. They picked our brain, and we got real close to him. He had an engagement ring. He was going to give it to her, but when we were leaving, he never gave her the engagement ring. He decided, I guess he didn't want to take the step.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. But they were an adorable couple.
Well, he saw how lovely your relationship was, and he go, wow, you compare it to those two.
Yeah.
No hope.
But I think that a lot of times, I think that being honest, sometimes people take it the wrong way. I think, like my sister said, well, you can't be honest with your kids. And I said, I disagree. How can you not? You got to have boundaries. That there's certain things that you'll allow and certain things that you won't, But that's
Is that where Jake gets it? From you?
What's that? Boundaries?
No,
Oh. Well, I think sometimes you can be honest to a point of destroying somebody.
Oh, he's not that bad.
I learned.
Yeah, but...
What are some things that you notice about the way that people think and behave that are different when compared to you growing up in the North End?
Disrespect. Very disrespect. See, like when I would go ride the bus to school in the morning, if there was an older person, I would always get up and give them my seat. And I just noticed that or letting somebody in when you're driving, or not using your signals.
Is courtesy in general?
Courtesy in general, and language. I know I'm probably kind of prudish, but do you have to say the F-bomb? Is it, why do you have to swear? I don't, I mean, my mom and dad worked in a factory, so I grew up with hell and damn and stuff. But my mother-in-law was very strict. If I would slip and say hell or damn, she slapped my mouth. And I was an adult.
And it hurt like hell. No,
not bad, but she was one of 17. Can you imagine being one of 17? Ugh. I didn't really want a lot of children because I was sort of resentful that I had to babysit all the time. But I matured and I grew out of it, and I babysat and made money. So you can turn anything into a positive,
Thank you, Jackie, for sharing your story. Really appreciated the time that we were able to spend together and just to kind of sit and listen to your testimony. Hope you enjoyed the interview as much as I did. And special thanks also to Jake Luther for the editing and mixing of the sound. Much appreciated, and thank you all for listening.